Hi. The Northern Rhone in France makes some of the world's greatest Shiraz Viognier styles, and Australia, as a new world wine producing region, also makes some excellent iterations of the style. So today we're going to talk about Viognier through the lens of Guigal and Condrieu in the Northern Rhone. I'm going to talk about the 2021 Syrah, 2019 Lerida Estate, 2021 Clonakilla, and the 2020 Standish Relic. We're going to talk about how these wines taste, and at the end of the video we're going to discuss how they compare to their Northern Rhone counterparts. So in glass number one we've got the 2020 Guigal La Dorienne from Condrieu. So this is 100% Viognier, obviously, 100% Malo, fermented in, or matured, in 100% new oak for 12 months, made essentially like a New World Chardonnay. And it's a really beautiful wine sourced from 4 different parcels. So Condrieu is a tiny little region in the north of Northern Rhone. So if you've ever been to Lyon, kind of south from there, there's Côte-Rôtie, Condrieu and Saint-Joseph. And what we have here is grapes that are grown on granite over sand, granite over iron oxide and shale over limestone. And that minerality from the dirt really comes through in the glass, because Viognier has a really beautiful apple, apricot, floral character, spring floral character. But the best ones for me have also got minerality and rockiness and tightness, because the style can be fat and oily and viscous and almost flabby if it's not done well. And this really has been done well. There's a beautiful phenolic curve through the finish, and at 14.5% alcohol, it's high alcohol. There's quite a bit of a kick through the finish too, but it does serve to tighten up some of that fruit and lace it in. So now that we know what Viognier tastes like, apples, apricots, oily, viscous, slippery, we can look at these wines and understand how that grape impacts these styles. So in the first glass, the 2021 Syrah. So Tom Carson and his partner Nadej have this close planted vineyard in Yarra Valley, and this has got 5% Viognier co-fermented in the wine with 5% whole bunches. So in terms of body, this is the lightest and finest on the table, which is why we're looking at it first. It is luminescent, but all of the Syrah wines are. That's the style. They're very much about the vineyard that they're from, the state that they're from, and the hands that made them. And that's what makes them so exciting. They're hard to get. They're sort of mailing list only, but if you see them around, you should try and get them and taste them, because they're delicious. Tom Carson is a lauded winemaker in Victoria, so when he started this project, everyone jumped on it. It's modern, it's supple. The Viognier actually plays more of an aromatic role than a textural role at this point. The tannins are slicked and streamlined through the finish, which again is impact from the Viognier, but more importantly to me is the nose, because this, it's really opened up since I opened it about half an hour ago, and I would recommend that you give it some time in the glass. But this is a beautiful, fresh, fine, detailed wine. It's a beautiful style, and really good for this spectrum of flavours that we're about to discuss. The second one, and the third one, but the second one from Murray Bateman in the Canberra district. So this is a good little area, and the reason why I've brought this guy in is because this is an iconic Australian wine, and this is made in the same region and also highly lauded, and I wanted to bring it forward to discuss today. So this has only got 1% Viognier. The 2018, the vintage prior, had 5%, so it's an interesting reduction in the amount of Viognier, but the impact is intense. So this, for me, while this is quite complex and is luminescent but has some savoury detail, this is sweet. This has apricots and apples and florals on the nose, but it also is a core of blackcurrant, pastille and jube and black cherry and almost kirsch. It's darker and more brooding in both texture and colour, but it's very good. The tannic structure and the mid-palate through the finish is what pulls this wine together. And for me, it justifies all of that gorgeous overflow of bright fruit, because the tannins keep it in line and the length pulls it all together. Now, This, for me, is a wine that probably needs a little more time than the time that I've given it. They all do. But certainly I think that once some of that sweet fruit softens into the tannic profile and we get a little bit more of a balanced wine in a year or 2 or 3, I think this is going to be a superstar. So if you haven't already, I'd recommend that you try that. Really cool. Maybe hard to get outside of Australia, I'm not sure, but certainly in Australia, they're a little producer and worth watching for. In the fourth glass, a wine that I'm sure everyone knows, this is a Clonakilla Shiraz Viognier. So I have a vertical video of this coming up with far more detail in it than I'm going to give you today. So please subscribe if you haven't already, because that video is coming out in a couple of weeks and is sure to be a cracker. So Clonakilla are famous for including sort of 5 to 6% Viognier in their wine. If you didn't know that this wine aged, you might think it's fine and bright and pretty, but what? Because there's beautiful density of flavour in the mouth. It kind of goes deep. It also goes long, but it's tight right now. And what we know is this wine in 15 or 20 years develops, in a couple of years it develops these characters, but it really dives into them in age. It develops this kind of lovely bacon fat meat sort of character, and that's as the Viognier and the Shiraz really, really meld into each other. For now, it's beautiful. It's luminescent and bright and fragrant. It's mouth perfume. It's filling. It's still evolving and still kind of giving me new characters in my mouth right now. There's cranberry and pomegranate and raspberry, and there's licorice, and it's a bit shaly, and there's minerals in there, dark things, graphite and a bit of coal dust, and there's the florals and the apricots and the apples and all of that. But this is a really beautiful kaleidoscopic wine, and I try and piggyback onto anyone else's purchasing every year for this. I love it. And while you can drink it young, it's beautiful. I would recommend that you try and wait, at the very least try and buy an older bottle and see what it is that I'm talking about, because as they age, they gain in traction and density and depth, and they just become these wondrous things. So it is a wine, it's a dangerous wine because it's beautiful on release and it's really good to age, and they can be hard to hang on to, but I would recommend that you give it a go. Speaking of Australian greats and icon wines, this is the Standish Relic Shiraz Viognier. So I recently reviewed this in The Advocate and gave it 99 points. It's the greatest relic I've ever seen released. And to me, this wine creates a new high tide mark for the New World wine producers. This is one of the great Shiraz Viognier wines on the planet, and no more so than through the lens of this warm, compressed, intense vintage. So 1% Viognier skins included in the ferment, 15 to 20% whole bunch. And the thing that I love about this wine is that the Viognier and the Shiraz are compressed together. They are so tightly compacted. This thing is seamless. It's got length of flavour, it's got drive, the tannins are present from the very, very first sip right through the very finish. This is a really complex 360 degree view wine, and I find it very, very difficult to understand how you could possibly make a better example of the Shiraz Viognier style. I really, it's so good. I really have to stop opening my bottles. I've really only got a few left, but it's too hard to talk about this style and not include that wine, so it's there. So how do these wines compare to their Northern Rhone counterparts? Well, I have a set of the 2018 Lalas, which I'm going to review in an upcoming video. And so that's really what got me thinking about doing these wines today. And I can tell you that those 2018 Lalas are vinified for 42 months in 100% new oak. And the Viognier inclusion, we're looking at 1%, 1%, 5 and 6%. The Viognier inclusions in those wines are anywhere from 0 to 11%. And the vines are young. They go from 25 years of age to 75 years of age. And we're looking at some really old vine material in some of these wines. So these are really big impacting things on how we perceive them as drinkers and how we enjoy them as drinkers. We know that the ageability of those Lalas is uncontested. Those wines go forever. I love them, but they are very big oak-driven styles. And these are not. You've got density and concentration that will rival the Lalas here. But these are fine, detailed, precise wines from the New World, and they are thrilling for it. So if you haven't had them, please try them, see what I'm talking about. Before you enter all of your, what about this wine and what about that wine, the Torbreck example, the Runrig, an amazing wine. There's Hentley Farm, the Beauty. There's so many great Australian Shiraz Viognier wines that we can talk about. I have chosen these for the reasons I have explained, but there are many more. So it's not about playing favourites, it's trying to explain to you the spectrum that we're capable of in Australia. So if you haven't already drunk all of these wines, I'd suggest that you cherry pick and go and find them. Get to it.